This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, you're welcome to go ahead and start the second part of the medical board meeting.
Thank you so much, Tessie. We have a motion to start with. Under the case law interpreting section 4731.22F5, several parties have confidentiality rights in the board's investigative files, including patients, complainants, the licensee, and the board itself. This confidentiality protects sensitive patient information from being inappropriately released to the public. In January 2020, the board was sued in the Court of Claims by Randall Krawczyk, DO. Dr. Krawczyk signed a permanent surrender, which was ratified by the board in January 2018, which is the basis of the lawsuit. Because the board's investigation of Dr. Krawczyk is at issue in the lawsuit, it may be necessary to disclose some investigatory information as part of the board's defense. Counsel for the board is seeking a waiver of the board's confidentiality in the investigative file involving Dr. Krawczyk for this purpose. The confidentiality rights of all other parties whose information is in the file will remain fully protected. Do I hear a motion to waive the medical board's confidentiality interest in the investigative materials involving Randall Krawczyk, DO?
This is Dr. Bechtel, so moved.
Thank you.
Second, Dr. Johnson.
Thank you kindly. Is there any discussion? Okay. Roll call, please. Dr. Rothermel? Dr. Rothermel? Okay. Dr. Safran?
Abstain.
Ganadakis?
Yes.
Ms. Montgomery?
Yes.
Dr. Feibel?
Yes.
Dr. Bechtel?
Yes.
And myself, Michael Schottenstein, yes.
And this is Dr. Rothermel. I abstain.
Yes. Thank you so much. So the motion passes. Thank you. We'll turn to settlement agreements, please. Rebecca?
Sorry. Yes. We have 10 settlement agreements. First is MMA DO, a permanent surrender.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to ratify the proposed permanent surrender with MMA DO?
So moved, Dr. Caccarello.
And
Second, Dr. Johnson.
Dr. Johnson, thank you. Roll call, please. Dr. Rothermel?
Abstain.
Dr. Safran?
Abstain. Yes.
And myself, Michael Schottenstein, yes. Do I hear a motion to ratify the proposed permanent surrender with NLHRCP? Motion?
So moved, Dr. Johnson.
Thank
Second.
you.
Second, Dr. Caccarello.
And Dr. Caccarello, thank you so much. Roll call, please. Dr. Rothermel?
Abstain.
Dr. Safran?
Abstain.
Mr. Giacalone?
Yes.
Dr. Soren?
Yeah.
Dr. Johnson?
Yes.
Dr. Caccarello?
Yes.
Mr. Ganadakis?
Yes.
Ms. Montgomery?
Yes.
Dr. Feibel?
Yes.
Dr. Bechtel?
Yes.
And myself, Michael Schottenstein, yes. Do I hear a motion to ratify the proposed permanent surrender with AWK LMT? Motion?
So moved.
Dr. Bechtel, and
Second, Dr. Caccarello.
thank you. Roll call, please. Dr. Rothermel?
Abstain.
Dr. Safran?
Abstain.
Mr. Giacalone?
Yes.
Dr. Soen?
Yes.
Dr. Johnson?
Yes.
Dr. Caccarello?
Yes.
Mr. Ganadakis?
Yes.
Ms. Montgomery?
Yes.
Dr. Feibel?
Yes.
Dr. Bechtel?
Yes.
And myself, Michael Schottenstein, yes. Do I hear a motion to ratify the proposed permanent surrender with YTMD?
So moved, Dr. Caccarello.
Thank you. Second?
Second, Dr. Johnson.
Thank you. Roll call, please. Dr. Rothermel?
Abstain.
Dr. Safran?
Abstain.
Mr. Giacalone?
Yes.
Dr. Soen?
Yeah.
Dr. Johnson?
Yes.
Dr. Caccarello?
Yes.
Mr. Ganadakis?
Yes.
Ms. Montgomery?
Yes.
Dr. Feibel?
Yes.
Dr. Bechtel?
Yes.
And myself, Michael Schottenstein, yes. Do I hear a motion to ratify the proposed consent agreement with HBKMD? Motion?
So moved.
So moved, Dr. Caccarello.
Thank you so much. Roll call, please. Dr. Rothermel?
Abstain.
Dr. Safran?
Abstain.
Mr. Giacalone?
Yes.
Dr. Soen?
Yeah.
Dr. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Cacarella,
Yes.
Mr. Ganadakis,
Yes.
Ms. Montgomery,
Yes.
Dr. Feibel,
Yes.
Dr. Bechtel,
Yes.
and myself, Michael Schottenstein, yes. Do I hear a motion to ratify the proposed Step 2 consent agreement with JPRDO? Motion?
So moved, Dr. Cacarella.
Thank you. Second?
Second,
Dr.
Dr. Bechtel.
Roll call, please. Dr. Rothermel,
Abstain.
Dr. Safran,
Abstain.
Mr. Jackalone,
Yes.
Dr. Soen,
Yeah.
Dr. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Cacarella,
Yes.
Mr. Ganadakis,
Yes.
Ms. Montgomery,
Yes.
Dr. Feibel,
Yes.
Dr. Bechtel,
Yes.
myself, Michael Schottenstein, yes. Do I hear a motion to ratify the proposed consent agreement with EGGMD? Motion?
So moved, Dr. Johnson.
Thank you. Second?
Second, Dr. Cacarella.
Thank you. Roll call, please. Dr. Rothermel,
Abstain.
Dr. Safran,
Abstain.
Jackalone,
Yes.
Dr. Soen,
Yeah.
Dr. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Cacarella,
Yes.
Mr. Ganadakis,
Yes.
Ms. Montgomery,
Yes.
Dr. Feibel,
Yes.
Dr. Bechtel,
Yes.
and myself, Michael Schottenstein, yes. Do I hear a motion to ratify the proposed Step 1 consent agreement with MDBDO? Motion?
So moved, Dr. Cacarella.
Thank you. Second?
Dr. Johnson.
Thank you so much. Roll call, please. Dr. Rothermel,
Abstain.
Dr. Safran,
Abstain.
Mr. Jackalone,
Yes.
Dr. Soen,
Yeah.
Dr. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Cacarella,
Yes.
Mr. Ganadakis,
Yes.
Ms. Montgomery,
Yes.
Dr. Feibel,
Yes.
Dr. Bechtel,
Abstain.
myself, Michael Schottenstein, yes. Do I hear a motion to ratify the proposed consent agreement with VLMD? Motion?
So moved, Dr. Cacarella.
Thank you. Second?
Second, Jackalone.
Thank you so much. Roll call, please. Dr. Rothermel,
Abstain.
Dr. Safran,
Abstain.
Mr. Jackalone,
Yes.
Dr. Soen,
Yeah.
Dr. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Cacarella,
Yes.
Mr. Ganadakis,
Yes.
Ms. Montgomery. Sorry, Ms. Montgomery. Dr. Feibel?
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Bechtel?
Abstain.
And myself, Michael Schottenstein, yes. Do I hear a motion to ratify the proposed permanent surrender with MDMD? Motion, please.
So moved, Dr. Cacarella.
Thank you. Second?
Dr. Johnson, second.
Thank you. Roll call, please. Dr. Rothermel,
Abstain.
Dr. Safran,
Abstain.
Mr. Jackalone,
Yes.
Dr. Soen,
Yeah.
Dr. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Cacarella,
Yes.
Mr. Ganadakis,
Yes.
Ms. Montgomery,
Yes.
Dr. Feibel,
Yes.
Dr. Bechtel,
Abstain.
and myself, Michael Schottenstein, yes. Thank you. Ms. Marshall, Chief Enforcement Attorney, will now present the proposed citations to the board.
Good afternoon, President Schottenstein, members of the board. We have 11 proposed notices of opportunity for hearing for you today. The first is to be issued to an MD, and it is based on action taken in March of 2020 by the California Medical Board. The second is to be issued to an MD. It is based on April 2020 action by the Maryland Medical Board. Citation number 3 is to be issued to an MD. It is based on actions taken by the medical boards of Texas, Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Illinois regarding to allegations of defrauding Medicare. Citation number 4 is to be issued to a DO. It is based on failure to cooperate in our board investigation. Citation number 5 is to be issued to an MD. It is based on failure to report Dr. Richard Strauss at OSU in the 1990s and a false statement related to the practice of medicine. Citation number 6 is to be issued to an MD. It's based on actions by the medical boards of North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin regarding prescribing. Citation number 7 is to be issued to an applicant for a massage therapy license. This is a proposed denial based on a recent felony conviction. Citation number 8 is to be issued to an MD. This is a proposed denial of an application for restoration of his Ohio license, which lapsed in 1976. It is based on multiple actions by the medical boards of New York and California. Citation number 9 is to be issued to an MD. It's based on minimal standards related to prescribing involving 11 patients. Citation number 10 is to be issued to a DO. It is a minimal standard cite regarding prescribing involving 11 patients and not checking ORs. Our final cite, Cite 11, is to be issued to a DO. It is a minimal standards cite based on prescribing involving 9 patients. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will be considering citation numbers 9, 10, and 11 separately, so Dr. Bechtel may abstain or vote appropriately. Would any other board member like to consider a citation separately? Do I hear a motion to approve and issue citations 1 through 8? Motion, please.
So moved, Dr. Cockrell.
Dr. Cockrell, Dr. Bechtel, thank you so much. Roll call, please. Dr. Rothermere,
Abstain.
Dr. Safran,
Abstain.
Mr. Giacalone,
Yes.
Dr. Sohn,
Yes.
Dr. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Cockrell,
Yes.
Mr. Ganadakis,
Yes.
Ms. Montgomery,
Yes.
Dr. Feibel,
Yes.
Dr. Bechtel,
Yes.
myself, Michael Schottenstein, yes. Do I hear a motion to approve and issue citations 9 through 11? Motion?
So moved, Dr. Johnson.
Thank you.
Second,
Second?
Dr. Cockrell.
Thank you so much. Roll call, please. Dr. Rothermere,
Abstain.
Dr. Safran,
Abstain.
Dr. Giacalone,
Yes.
Dr. Sohn,
Yes.
Dr. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Cockrell,
Yes.
Mr. Ganadakis,
Yes.
Ms. Montgomery,
Yes.
Dr. Feibel,
Yes.
Dr. Bechtel,
Abstain.
and myself, Michael Schottenstein, yes. Thank you. Ms. Stephanie Luca, Executive Director, will now present the operations report.
Thank you, Dr. Schottenstein. Before we dive into kind of the content of the report, I did just want to give you a quick overview on how we're handling our open complaints these days. I know you're all familiar probably with what we used to call the red list. And so the red list was sort of a list that we looked at. I think it was quarterly, and we would look at where at the complaint status, and kind of different groups would answer questions based on where they were with their complaints on that red list. And if they were kind of overdue, then they would explain what they were going to do with those cases. We have a lot of complaints. We get a lot of complaints, and we have what I would consider a really large docket of complaints to work through. What we really are striving to do is making sure that we are getting to those complaints in a timely fashion, but that we're also hitting a balance on a quality outcome, right? So what we don't want to do is, because we do have such a huge volume of complaints, rush to close those complaints. So we need to be very mindful of that we are doing this methodically and substantively. So we've created a new report. It's called our Open Complaints Report. And really what that's going to become is our daily management tool. And so we're getting out of a quarterly basis, and we're turning this report into something that's going to be a real-time, day-to-day sort of thing. And with that report, what we'll be doing is creating benchmarks on how long we think things should take. So not necessarily a deadline, but how long on average should it take us to get an expert witness? How long on average should we wait for a subpoena to come back before we start, pursue that information and do a follow-up on information? So looking at those different parts of our complaint process to make sure that we are tightening our timelines in moving those things forward. And to do this, we need some foundational information too. So we're going to be looking at how many sites have we done in the past? How many settlements have we done in the past? Could we be doing more settlements? And in some of this, this is all process stuff that we just need to constantly be looking at. How many disposals are we doing without taking things forward? what is the role of our staff at each one of these steps? So do we have the right people doing the right parts of the step? Could we be reallocating legal resources somewhere else and then having administrative resources focus on different parts? So, so just, and as we come up with that data and figure out what that looks like, that will then become part of your operations report as we start to trend some of that out. So you'll start to see that. So that's sort of a sneak peek of things that we've been working on. And to do that, what we really needed to do is get a lot of our information up to date and modified in our complaint tracking system. So that means, attaching the right owners to things and creating different steps along the way so that we can run reports out of that system on our complaints. So there's been some cleanup work to help us along in that regard. With respect to the report itself, I can't say enough thank yous to our staff who are continuing on working from home in the pandemic without a lot of the things that they normally have around them. They're doing a great job. We really haven't missed a beat in the 5 months that we've been doing this. And so we're really proud of that work and extremely grateful because it is not always easy. It does make things more challenging. And they're doing a phenomenal job. We don't have a projected return to work date. That's all still up in the air. So they're continuing on, and we're trying to make sure that nothing else falls through, that nothing falls through the cracks along the way. Some operational things that we're working on right now. We're working on an IT plan. So looking at all of our equipment, what's our strategy for purchasing new equipment, if and when we can purchase new equipment. Just really that's not something that we've had before. We need to have we need to have a bigger plan around what some of our capital expenses look like for these things. So we're working on that. Looking on how we get started with an overall strategic plan that we would bring to you all. To the retreat. I think that's something that, as we've heard from staff, staff are sort of hungry for that. What's the direction of the board? Where do I fit into the board? And I think as an organization, we're overdue to have a fresh strategic plan with, the right mission, the right goals, the right milestones along the way, things that we can sort of set expectations around and hold people accountable to. And let's see, what else do I have to share with you? At the end of your report, you always see these open complaints and closed complaints. And again, that's just a month snapshot. What we really need to do with this, and we're working on this, it's difficult given how large our data set is and how it basically makes it unwieldy. We're looking at turning those into trend numbers for you. So there's some context so that when you're looking at these month after month, you're seeing where we're going with some of these complaints. I looked at it again this month and I thought, okay, well, this is helpful. It tells me what we did in June, but it doesn't necessarily tell me how this June compares to last June, or are we on track? So we're going to work on turning some of those numbers into trend numbers as well. And that's about it for me on the operations side.
Next question.
Yes. Sure.
I appreciate all of these goals, especially in terms of like your desire to change up our case management. Does staff have the adequate tools to implement these changes in terms of like case management software, things like that?
That's a great question. So I think we've talked before that we really do need some sort of case management system, like a docket type system. And we do have budget issues right now. That's probably not coming our way anytime this fiscal year. But that being said, what we're doing now on a day-to-day basis is building habits around putting things into what would be considered a docket system, right? So we're cleaning up the data that we do have so that when we make that switch, we'll have clean, consistent data going in. And I think probably more important, we're working on creating consistent habits among staff members so that when we're working a complaint, everybody's working the complaint the same way.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
At some point after you've analyzed and decided about needs and skill sets, and you've got all the players in the right chairs, you can, I assume that you're going to make some changes. I know that you'll be making some, you'll be able to tell us what your ultimate reporting schedule is. I mean, who reports to who, and yeah, the structure of the office. When you talk about a retreat, you're talking about staff retreat, or you're talking about, because I clearly, in order to set the missions and all that, it's the board retreat. But you're also talking about staff retreat.
No, I'm actually talking about the board retreat. So, so I think, some of the work that we're doing now is to facilitate that process at the board retreat, right? So that is a board responsibility, is setting that strategic plan. But I think that, to be efficient about it and to kind of keep things on track, we'll bring something for you to react to.
So,
and maybe it's not the right time, but I think it's something that we need to talk about. We do not have a strategic plan right now, and that's something as an organization that we need to have.
So when we talk about questions about sort of, you heard coming up in our board meeting some questions about uniformity, and I think that it's clearly your lawyers are trying to be consistent in the approaches they use and that. But now that you've added the timeline, it would be wonderful to be able to look at templates in terms of reports to us, so that we get a consistent. It depends on who the who's writing the report or who's writing the memo to us, whether we get certain certain information, so that if you had a template where this is what has to be included on X, Y, and Z when you give it to the board, so that we have background information. How old is it? What's the nature? And all of that stuff. If you can, if you can think about putting in templates so that it's easier for us to find things. And the timeline has been wonderful. I think the staff has done a great job. It's wonderful to see what's happened in 6 months. It's disclosed where we have some issues, and but all in all, it's just been remarkable to watch the heavy lifting that you've done, Stephanie, and the staff. It's just congratulations.
We could expand the memos with regard to the settlement agreements. There is, and understandably so, but there is this sort of consistent concern across board meetings about timelines and about when we do or don't use summary suspension. Right.
Yeah.
And so
I think, I think that we should. I think that I do. I want to be. I think when we talk about building consistent practices, I think that's exactly what we're talking about, and making sure that we're providing all of the same information consistently throughout. And I think, we want our staff to exercise professional discretion in the substantive parts of their jobs, but I think we want to just make sure that we're presenting and doing things in a methodical way, so you all are getting kind of the information that you need consistently.
So some of that information might include, if you can anticipate, these different cases where the timeline is especially long, or where on the surface of it, it begs the question as to why there was not a summary suspension. If you can speak to those things even in the memo, it might streamline the discussions, right? So instead of people, understandably raising their hands and wanting to have answers to those questions, instead the answers are kind of right there to begin with, and it moves the process along.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. To the extent that we can provide the information, I think we're more than happy to be able to do that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Good. That's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Next, Dr. Bechtel will give the Medical Marijuana Expert Review Committee report, please.
Thank you, Dr. Schoenstein. The Medical Marijuana Committee last met on June 8th after the monthly board meeting. And for the first item of business, I would ask the board members to review the minutes from the meeting.
Is there a motion to approve the June 8th, 2020 Medical Marijuana Committee minutes as drafted?
Move.
Mr.
Second.
Dr. Soin, thank you kindly. All in favor, voice vote is fine. Aye.
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 All opposed? Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr.
Next,
Ganadak-
I'd like to report out the recommendations made by the committee regarding petitions for new qualifying conditions. As you know, the petitions were submitted to the board between November 1st and December 31st of 2019. And the medical board did review 28 petitions for potential qualifying conditions. Petitions for 3 qualifying conditions were moved forward for further review and discussion, and these included autism and spectrum disorder, anxiety disorder, and cachexia. The committee felt that we wanted additional input on cachexia, as this condition had not been previously discussed by the committee. Dr. Roland Seymour submitted a written report, which all board members should have and had an opportunity to review. I think it's important to point out that in the discussion we had with her with the committee, she expressed concerns about the quality of the products and the mechanism involved in developing the medical marijuana dispensary. And I think we were able to share really important information with her about the Ohio Medical Marijuana Control Program that she seemed satisfied. And so the committee supported cachexia as a qualifying condition. 2 other conditions under consideration had come before the board previously, but there was new scientific information submitted that year. The committee reviewed this new information and also reflected a lot on the discussion we had previously about the benefits versus the risks regarding autism and anxiety. Although there was new information, the committee felt that it did not present compelling evidence that medical marijuana could provide better outcomes and less consequences than the current medical treatments. Is there any discussion from the board? Yes, Mike, Dr. Schottenstein.
Thank you so much. So I think that the condition of cachexia is as compelling of an indication as we're going to get at the board. Medical marijuana is already approved in Ohio for cachexia-related conditions such as cancer and AIDS. The FDA has approved dronabinol, a prescription synthetic THC, to treat cachexia. Medical marijuana is arguably less likely to cause concerning side effect than dronabinol because it's less potent. Medical marijuana is less expensive than dronabinol, and we have good quality assurance regarding the marijuana product. I would also say that cachexia is a devastating syndrome for patients and their families. Poor appetite is a very real quality of life issue. And so one could make a case that increasing the appetite of the patient with this condition is beneficial, especially from a mental health standpoint, because eating is a source of enjoyment for patients, and it's a means to socialize with family and friends. Patients socially isolate when they can't eat. With regard to the autism and anxiety indications, as noted, the new studies that were presented to us were not substantially different from what we saw last year. The same concerns exist in terms of lack of demonstrated efficacy and potential for substantial side effects. So I'm going to vote to approve the petition for cachexia, and I'm going to vote to deny the petitions for anxiety and autism. Any further discussion? Okay, thank you. So if there's no further discussion, then may I have a motion to approve the petition for cachexia and officially add it as a qualifying condition for the Ohio Medical Marijuana Control Program?
So moved.
Motion.
So moved, Dr. Cockrell.
And Dr. Coccarella, thank you so much. Roll call, please. Dr. Rothermel,
Yes.
Dr. Safran,
Yes.
Mr. Giacalone,
Yes.
Dr. Soin,
Yes.
Dr. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Coccarella,
Yes.
Mr. Ganadakis,
Abstain.
Ms. McDonald,
Yes.
Dr. Feibel,
Yes.
Dr. Bechtel,
Yes.
and myself, Michael Schottenstein, yes. Thank you. Is there a motion to reject the petitions for autism spectrum disorder and anxiety disorder?
So moved, Dr. Johnson.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Giacalone.
Thank you, Mr. Giacalone. Roll call, please, Dr. Rothermel. Dr. Rothermel?
Yes.
There you go. Dr. Saffron,
Yes.
Mr. Giacalone,
Yes.
Dr. Suen,
Yeah.
Dr. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Tatarala,
Yes.
Mr. Ganadakis,
Abstain.
Ms. Montgomery,
Yes.
Dr. Feibel,
Yes.
Dr. Bechtel,
Yes.
and myself, Michael Schottenstein, yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Schottenstein. We will work with the State Board of Pharmacy to get cachexia added to the patient and caregiver registry so that physicians with a certificate to recommend can select cachexia as a qualifying condition in the system. But also like to provide a reminder that the board will again be accepting petitions for new qualifying conditions November 1st through December 31st of this year. Previously rejected conditions may be considered again as long as the petition contains new scientific information. The board will also be voting in the fall set petition window for 2021. Thank you. This concludes the Medical Marijuana Committee section.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bechtel. Now I will give the Sexual Misconduct Committee report from this morning's 8 o'clock in the morning meeting. Thank you. So what we heard today was that we are 82% through our working group tasks altogether and 75% through the case review, the historical case review. So thankful to staff as always for their hard work. We reviewed the June 16th update and presentation that was given to the working group at a meeting, which was reported to have been well received, and we're grateful for that. And thank you so much to Stephanie for that. It was a great presentation. She worked super hard on it. Stephanie made the point earlier today that, with these action items, we don't just check them off and move on and leave them behind us. This is ongoing, especially in terms of the culture work that needs to take place at the board. And so it's something that we're going to, work on and continue to work on in the future. We have started reaching out to law enforcement, but the point was made that that was derailed when the coronavirus hit and we had to more socially isolate. So we're hopeful to pick that up as time goes by. Substantially, we reviewed some non-F5 legislative proposals, some draft, just to emphasize their draft legislative proposals. And that is something that we gave feedback about today, and staff will continue to, work on those proposals. We're thinking probably end of 2020 or early 2021 when we're ready to potentially submit those for consideration. I would refer you to the minutes from the Sexual Misconduct Committee meeting this morning for the specifics on those proposals. And if there's no questions, that concludes my report. Next, Dr. Sohn will present for Policy Committee, please.
Thank you. And hello, everyone. Policy Committee met this morning, and we went over the meeting minutes. We went over the rule reviews, and then we discussed two items regarding CSI. I don't recall, Kim, if those two items need voted on by the full board. Do you know? Do they?
I think the CME rules we could, and that was to work with Dr. Johnson and the OOA on the OOA comments, and then also to correct some technical issues in the rule, just some technical corrections, and to not make a change with respect to the duty to report CME, which was recommended by the Strauss Work Group. But we did have 5 comments, I believe, opposing that. So it's those 3 items.
Okay. So do we have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Dr. Bechtel, and a second?
I'll second.
Second, Dr. Cockrell.
Thank you, Dr. Caccarella. We'll take a voice vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay,
May I
that
just,
carries.
Dr. Soin, Kim, is a voice vote okay, or do we need the roll call?
I think a voice vote is fine. You're not issuing a discipline or a license, so
Right.
it's fine.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you. So the next item is regarding the telemedicine bill, and something that we want to work closely with at the medical board to help facilitate that. As we know, this will be a major piece of legislation for the policy committee, and as a result, we're going to ensure that we discuss this agenda item monthly at policy committee, but at the same time, we'd like to create a separate subcommittee to review this matter so that we can discuss and stay on top of it between board meetings. And so I guess we can see if people are interested in serving on that small or on the subcommittee. But keep in mind, even if you don't serve on it, you're still going to have a voice regarding the matter because we will be discussing it monthly.
I'm glad to volunteer.
I'll volunteer.
I'll volunteer.
Okay, great. And myself, so it might be tough to jot everyone's names down, so feel free to email Stephanie as well, and then we can get that piece going. Now, I want to tell you, I heard everyone loud and clear at the last board meeting about how we're doing the legislative updates, and I can tell you that the board staff from last month to now has also heard you, and we are going to make a lot of proactive changes. And as a result, in the on your onboard, you see a memo about changes to the legislative updating process that we're going to be doing. There's a flowchart diagram and some key notes. And on that note, I do want to allow Stephanie to kind of run through that or explain what the process is going to be going forward, and then also discuss any other items she may have regarding a legislative update specifically for this meeting or the telemedicine update as well.
Sure. Thanks, Dr. Soin. And I'm actually going to turn it over to Jill Reardon, who will give you just a quick update on that memo.
Thank you, Stephanie. Dr. Schottenstein, Dr. Soin, board, thank you so much. I'm very excited to have the opportunity to start out with this legislative shop kind of from scratch and go through and set it up differently and set it up in more detail because I think we really need to get to the point where we're communicating with you in a consistent manner. I know Dr. Schottenstein was talking earlier about basically having branding and boilerplate type of memos so that when you open the memo every time, you know exactly what it is, you know what to expect, and you get the information you need out of it. And so we have gone through and you have an email that has all this information in it. But I'm really excited to have the opportunity to refocus our office and then to realign our efforts so that not only are we communicating to you in a manner that you need, getting information back from you that will then enable us to be strong when we go over to the legislature to express your opinion, to make sure that we're protecting the board and all of our licensees.
That's great. Thank you. And for the board members, feel free to look at that memo and you can see the flow chart. But honestly, you're going to see it rolled out in real time by the next board meeting. You'll start to see how we're doing that. And I think you'll see that we have made some improvements. And, obviously we can continue to improve as the months go on. Stephanie, are there other legislative matters that we need to update on?
I think that we just had one other piece of legislation that that Jill was going to just briefly update you on. I believe House Bill 606, if I'm getting the numbers right.
Yes, thank you for your time. House Bill 606, which is the civil immunity bill, and that's something that Nate Smith and our legal department had giving you a legal memo on before the last policy committee. And it expanded immunity granted to healthcare providers and businesses during the healthcare pandemic for the date the administration declared an emergency from March 9th on through December 31st of this year. It expands immunity from professional disciplinary action for healthcare providers that provide healthcare services because of or in response to a disaster emergency. This legislation was voted out of the Senate Judiciary Committee and out of the Senate last week. It contained 4 amendments, and some of the bill was removed, but nothing that impacted the board directly. The bill will now head back to the House for concurrence, and the Senate President and the House Speaker have both said publicly that they believe that the House will accept the Senate's changes because there wasn't any fundamental change to the bill as it went back and forth between the House and the Senate. The bill does have an emergency clause that makes it immediately effective when by the date that it's signed into the law by the governor. I did talk to one of the high-ranking caucus policy staff last week after it was passed out of the Senate, who said that he doesn't believe the House has any indication. He has no indication that the House is going to come back early to concur on this. However, as we all know, we are kind of dealing in a continuously changing environment, so that would not be set in stone. And if they came back to do something else on an emergency basis, they could actually do that as well. So we will stay on top of that. I also wanted to mention, late last week, we received a request from a coalition of medical facilities and associations requesting that the board consider joining the Interstate Medical Licensure Compact. And I wanted to let you know, in case you heard that we had gotten that, we have gotten it out to staff and they are reviewing the proposal. And we will get both the request and the comments from the staff to you as soon as we get them. That's all I have.
May I ask a question? Will we have rulemaking capability under 606?
Nate, do you know? I assume.
I don't believe there'll be rulemaking authority. I believe basically what it is doing is immunizing health care providers during that period of time. I believe March 9th through the end of the emergency. So, but I don't believe in 606 there's any rulemaking authority.
Okay, I was just wondering because, there are some exceptions, that are noted, and I wondered if it would be something we would craft rules around.
There is an exception for gross negligence that the immunity that would apply to healthcare workers wouldn't be applicable if there was gross negligence in relation to professional discipline. And there's a definition of gross negligence in the bill that talks about a lack of care so great that it appears to be conscious indifference to the rights of others. So you're talking about very, very serious minimal standards cases that could still be brought. But it certainly, as has been detailed, it certainly does have an effect on other minimal standards cases.
May I ask a question, Dr. Schottenstein?
Please.
And you may not know this. Do you know? I assume they've done a lot of quibbling over this gross language, as opposed to a departure from the standard of care, because that brings too many people into the net. I mean, are you aware of where that conversation has been? Or since we weren't part of the developing this bill, I don't think. We probably don't know, but do you know?
I don't know. The only thing that I have seen and that we have provided is any of the testimony that's been given, but I don't know the background around that specific point.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, the reason I asked is because I just have this concern that essentially this, language could be, used as a shield, essentially from behavior that's not even essentially directly related to the emergency. It's just so broad. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's Dr. Schottenstein. That's what I was trying to get to. I don't know. We want to legislate in the medical board, but it could eviscerate our standards cases if we don't weigh in on and put some curbs on it. Otherwise, just because of a template point in time, somebody commits a malpractice and we can't get to it because it's during that point of time. Is it for folks that are doing it just for the treatment of folks with COVID? Did you say?
I believe that it's a provider that's providing healthcare services that is as a result of or in response to a disaster or an emergency. So, I mean, it's a little broader, but it's it's hemmed in related to this pandemic. And from a time perspective, it's also just during the period of the pandemic. There was another bill that was sort of a similar companion bill that was floating around that had offered more permanent changes to the revised code, and I think, at least as far as we can tell, the legislature has chosen to move on this one that's a more temporary measure.
Good. Thank you.
Dr. Schottenstein.
Sir.
A question about the compact. We discussed that several years ago. It was brought up and we analyzed the situation and decided that we didn't want to be part of that. Is something changed that we want to be part of that?
I don't know that anything's changed other than the fact that we have received a letter from a group of institutions asking us to join.
It didn't seem at that time several years ago that there was any advantage to us, that there were more disadvantages than advantages. And, certainly they'd like us to join, but I don't think it's appropriate for us to join.
We'll certainly get the paperwork that we received last week, plus any comments at the updated comments from the last time this was addressed, and get those to you so that you can make a decision.
Great, thank you.
Okay, if there are no other questions, that concludes policy committee.
Thank you so much, Dr. Soin. The Finance Committee did not need to meet separately this month, so I will provide the financial update to the full board at this time. Looking at our fiscal update for May 2020, revenue was $542,239. You may compare that to the May 2018 revenue of $1,078,533. We continue to experience a shortfall in revenue based on the delay of the license renewal deadlines. We will probably be about $1 million under our projected revenue for fiscal year 2020 as a result of the delayed renewal deadline. We did send out email communications to our licensees with renewal deadlines in the March through September range regarding the benefits of renewing now, but we will likely make most of this up in fiscal year 2021. Unfortunately as well, May was a higher spending month. Spending was actually low, but it's one of the few occasions where we had 3 pay periods in the month, so it looks artificially higher. Having said that, you may see on the fiscal summary page that we have $505,082 in net revenue for fiscal year 2020 year to date. And although our cash balance went down substantially, it is still at a healthy $5,093,861. You may also notice on the fiscal summary page under historical case review that we have $65,800 remaining that is encumbered. That will likely spend down to an approximately $30,000 balance by the end of the fiscal year. We will simply re-encumber that balance for 2021. That should get us through the remaining case review project. You may notice on the page outlining our fines that we have collected $15,600 for the month of May. Are there any questions about the financial summary? So you may notice that we have a motion today for Finance Committee. Beginning in December 2019, Schumacher, Loop, and Kendrick was appointed as special counsel to defend the State Medical Board of Ohio in responding to subpoenas, ducus tecum, issued in opioid-related lawsuits, including the multi-district litigation in federal court in the Northern District of Ohio and litigation filed against pharmaceutical manufacturers and distributors in Ross and Madison counties. The opioid litigation is ongoing, and the Attorney General's office has approved outside counsel Schumacher, Loop, and Kendrick for up to $45,000 for fiscal year 21. The assigned attorney is Joseph Simpson, and he has worked with J.T. Wakely and Sarah Coulter of the AG's office and me in responding, and that's to say, and Kim Anderson, in responding to subpoenas and correspondence from counsel to the parties in the litigation. The medical board is not a party to any of the opioid-related lawsuits, but has provided thousands of pages of public documents in response to subpoenas issued in these matters. The amount requested is likely more than what is actually needed, but Ms. Anderson is asking for approval at this time to encumber the full amount. So we have a motion, please, to approve funding up to $45,000 for outside counsel Schumacher, Loop, and Kendrick to continue work on the opioid litigation during fiscal year 2021. Dr. Safran and
Dr. Bechtel, second.
Dr. Bechtel, thank you so much. Is there discussion? Okay. And so is that a roll call vote or a voice vote?
This is roll call since it's money.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Okay. So roll call, please. Dr. Rothermel?
Yes.
Dr. Safran?
Yes.
Mr. Giacalone?
Yes.
Dr. Safran? Dr. Sowen, sorry.
Yes.
Dr. Johnson?
Yes.
Yes.
Dr. Coccarella?
Yes.
Mr. Ganadakis?
Yes.
Ms. Montgomery?
Yes.
Dr. Feibel?
Yes.
Dr. Bechtel?
Yes.
And myself, Michael Schottenstein, yes. Thank you. So that concludes Finance Committee report. Next, Dr. Safran will present for Licensure Committee, please.
Thank you, Dr. Schottenstein. Our first item is Teresa Alvarez has applied for restoration of her Ohio license to practice dietetics. She has not practiced within the last 5 years. However, Ms. Alvarez's dietetic registration with the Commission on Dietetic Registration, CDR, is current, valid through March 31st, 2021, verifying she meets all requirements and she is in good standing. The motion would be to move to approve Ms. Alvarez's application for restoration of her Ohio license as presented.
Thank you, Dr. Safran. Is there a motion?
Dr. Bechtel, so moved.
Bechtel, thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Dr. Coccarella.
Thank you so much. Any discussion? Roll call, please. Dr. Rothermel?
Yes.
Dr. Safran?
Yes.
Mr. Giacalone?
Yes.
Dr. Sowen?
Yes.
Dr. Johnson?
Yes.
Dr. Coccarella?
Yes.
Mr. Ganadakis?
Yes.
Ms. Montgomery?
Yes.
Dr. Feibel?
Yes.
Dr. Bechtel?
Yes.
And myself, Michael Schottenstein, yes.
Next item is Grace Barber has applied for an Ohio license to practice dietetics. She has not practiced within the last 5 years. However, Ms. Barber's dietetic registration with the Commission on Dietetic Registration, CDR, is current, valid through August 31st, 2020, verifying she meets all requirements and she is in good standing. The motion would be to move to approve Ms. Barber's application for an Ohio license as presented.
Thank you. Motion, please.
So moved.
Dr. Bechtel, thank you.
Second, Dr. Coccarella.
Thank you so much. Discussion? Roll call, please. Dr. Rothermel?
Yes.
Dr. Safran?
Yes.
Mr. Giacalone?
Yes.
Dr. Sowen?
Yes.
Dr. Johnson?
Yes.
Dr. Coccarella?
Yes.
Mr. Ganadakis?
Yes.
Ms. Montgomery?
Yes.
Dr. Feibel?
Yes.
Dr. Bechtel?
Yes.
And myself, Michael Schottenstein, yes.
Next is Erin Burrell has applied for restoration of her Ohio massage therapy license. She has not practiced within the last 5 years. The motion is moved to approve Ms. Burrell's application for restoration of her Ohio license contingent on successful completion of the MBLEX within 12 months from the date of mailing of the notice of opportunity for a hearing.
Thank you. Motion, please.
So moved, Dr. Coccarella.
Dr. Coccarella, thank you so much. Discussion? Roll call, please. Dr. Rothermel?
Yes.
Dr. Safran?
Yes.
Mr. Giacalone?
Yes.
Dr. Sowen?
Yes.
Dr. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Coccarella,
Yes.
Mr. Gannadakis,
Yes.
Ms. Montgomery,
Yes.
Dr. Feibel,
Yes.
Dr. Bechtel,
Yes.
myself, Michael Schottenstein, yes.
Next, Andrea Nikki Jones has applied for a massage therapy license in Ohio. She has not practiced within the last 5 years. Motion is moved to approve Ms. Jones' application for Ohio license pending successful completion of the MBLEX within 12 months from the date of mailing of the notice of opportunity for a hearing.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved, Dr. Cafarella.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. Dr. Bechtel, thank you so much. Discussion? Roll call, please. Dr. Rothenberg,
Yes.
Dr. Safran,
Yes?
Mr. Giacalone,
Yes.
Dr. Sullivan,
Yeah.
Dr. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Coccarella,
Yes.
Mr. Gannadakis,
Yes.
Ms. Montgomery,
Yes.
Dr. Feibel,
Yes.
Dr. Bechtel,
Yes.
myself, Michael Schottenstein, yes.
Nicole McCabe has applied for restoration of her Ohio massage therapy license. She has not practiced within the last 5 years. The motion is moved to approve Ms. McCabe's application for restoration of her Ohio license contingent on her passing of the MBLEX within 12 months from the date of mailing of the notice of opportunity for a hearing.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Dr. Bechtel and Dr. Rothenberg, thank you so much. Is there discussion? Roll call, please. Dr. Rothenberg,
Yes.
Dr. Safran,
Yes?
Mr. Giacalone,
Yes.
Dr. Sullivan,
Yeah.
Dr. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Coccarella,
Yes.
Mr. Gannadakis,
Yes.
Ms. Montgomery,
Yes.
Dr. Feibel,
Yes.
Dr. Bechtel,
Yes.
myself, Michael Schottenstein, yes.
Last is Angela Wren has applied for restoration of her Ohio massage therapy license. She has not practiced within the last 5 years. The motion is moved to approve her application for restoration of her Ohio license contingent on passing of the MBLEX within 12 months of the date of mailing of the notice of opportunity for a hearing.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Dr. Bechtel, thank you. And second?
Second, Dr. Cafarella.
Dr. Coccarella, thank you so much. Is there discussion? Roll call, please. Dr. Rothenberg,
Yes.
Dr. Safran,
Yes.
Mr. Giacalone,
Yes.
Dr. Sullivan,
Yeah.
Dr. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Coccarella,
Yes.
Mr. Gannadakis,
Yes.
Ms. Montgomery,
Yes.
Dr. Feibel,
Yes.
Dr. Bechtel,
Yes.
myself, Michael Schottenstein, yes.
Thank you. This completes the licensure committee agenda.
Thank you so much, Dr. Safran. Next on the agenda, please turn to the compliance section. Do I hear a motion to approve the compliance staff's report of conferences for June 8th and 9th, 2020? Motion, please.
Move Giacalone.
Thank you. Second?
Second, Dr. Cafarella.
Thank you so much. Roll call, please. Dr. Rothenberg,
Yes.
Dr. Safran,
Abstain?
Mr. Giacalone,
Yes. Ken, do you want to abstain?
I'll abstain, sorry.
Thank you.
Dr. Sullivan,
Yeah.
Dr. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Coccarella,
Yes.
Mr. Gannadakis,
Yes.
Ms. Montgomery,
Yes.
Dr. Feibel,
Yes.
Dr. Bechtel,
Abstain.
and myself, Michael Schottenstein, yes. Thank you. At this time, we will consider the probationary request in today's agenda that have been prepared by the Standards Review and Compliance staff and distributed to board members. Before asking for a motion, does any board member wish to consider a probationary request separately? Do I hear a motion to approve the secretary and supervising members' recommendations for the probationary requests? Motion?
Move Giacalone.
Thank you. Second?
Second, Dr. Cafarella.
Thank you so much. Roll call, please. Dr. Rothenberg,
Abstain.
Dr. Safran,
Abstain?
Giacalone,
Yes.
Dr. Sullivan.
Yeah.
Dr. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Coccarella,
Yes.
Mr. Gannadakis,
Yes.
Ms. Montgomery,
Yes.
Dr. Feibel,
Yes.
Dr. Bechtel,
Abstain.
and myself, Michael Schottenstein, yes. That concludes the July 2020 meeting of the State Medical Board of Ohio. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And Dr. Bechtel, thank you. All in favor, voice vote, aye?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, the time is 1:51 p.m. and we are adjourned. Thank you so much, everybody. Always a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you. You did a great job.
You're very kind.